Good afternoon, EDU 528 students. I thought I'd make this quick video just to give an overview, and I'll just talk through the collaborative problem solving for social justice project with you all, so that you have a little bit more support for this assignment and you understand all the steps. I imagine that at this point you've begun step one, which is the problem identification. So in this step, basically what you're being asked to do is to make sure that you read the case and read the case very carefully. I suggest that you take notes about your thinking as you prepare to discuss the case with your peers, and you can figure out however modality works for you to talk with your group members. I mean, some folks may use Google Docs to write down their notes. Some folks might use a conference call. Some folks might send emails back and forth. That's up to you. And if you obviously you could also meet in person. So you should be able to explain in your discussion, or in order to prepare for your discussion, the questions lettered A through E on your document. So beginning with what is the nature of the problem the characters are facing in your case study, and ending with what are the potential obstacles. So again, step one is really about preparing for your discussion. Step two is to engage in your discussion. So I'm thinking that, again, at this point, some folks should be there or should be getting there very soon. I'm suggesting that you have 2 to 3 discussions, and again, you can decide on what modality works for you all to talk with one another. I think Google Docs is a good idea because you can keep your notes there and keep track of who said what, and you could also use that as a place to begin to create your overview so that you're documenting the work that you're doing along the way and you don't have to wait until the end. So in the first discussion, I think you should be sharing your notes, thinking about the places where your thinking aligns and then places where your thinking conflicts, and how you might resolve those disagreements. Consider that you're educational stakeholders, right? So just like the characters in the case, you have differing opinions about how these problems should be resolved, or these dilemmas in the case should be resolved. So I think articulating what those perspectives are is important. And going back to the reading that you've done thus far is also important to inform your perspective. Right now you have chapter outlines and obviously your discussion board threads for all of the reading that we've done in the course, save for this last chapter. So you can go back to those readings to inform your perspective, to justify your perspective, but you can also draw from your personal experiences in the classrooms. In your second discussion, obviously I'm asking you to go back to the course readings and consider how the actions that were taken in the case align with social justice and equity, and if the actions were appropriate or inappropriate, and why. So again, this is going to rely on your understandings of social justice and equity to clarify the actions that the characters take in the case. So based on those 2 discussions, you should develop your overview. Your overview is a very brief written report. I'm thinking no more than a page, right? So, and double spaced. You could write your written report as a summary that responds to the questions. You could write your written report as an outline. You all have the freedom to make that decision. I just ask that you are thoughtful and you're thorough, and it is grounded in the course readings. So, and obviously connecting back to the case study with specificity. So the bottom line here is that the richer and the better documented your discussion is, then the stronger that overview will be. Okay, the last parts are to write the written report and to develop the PowerPoint presentation. So I think that those things should mirror one another. So your written report is going to need an introduction, your body section, and your conclusion. Your introduction should just summarize what the case was about. right? And we should get some details because not everybody has read your case. The body section should answer the questions that were provided for your particular case study. So all of that is on D2L. And when you respond to those questions, I'm thinking about, 2 to 4 sentences for each of those questions. And then finally, a conclusion that is demonstrating, okay, if this case was in my own classroom, right, if this emerged in my practice or in my work as an educator, how would I approach this from a social justice and an equity-based approach? So you should be referencing the readings in the course in this written report to demonstrate that you've, again, clearly have a command of the material and how the ideas in the text have helped you answer the questions. Your written report, so folks ask me about APA conventions, and to be clear, what I mean by that is not all the conventions, just the ones that I have listed. So your cover page with the title and all your group members' names, to use Times New Roman 12-point font for all of your pages, 3 to 4 pages double spaced and numbered, and then using APA for your in-text citations and your reference page. And I always point folks to Al Purdue because that's an easy place to make sure to check your references. I think people did a pretty good job so far in their multicultural event papers. So I think that this section should be, in terms of APA formatting, should be not so much of a problem. Your PowerPoint presentation is the last piece. So we are having an in-class meeting and for our last session, our last Wednesday. So you're going to present your case to the class, and same as your written report, you're going to summarize the case, you're going to identify the problems, you're going to discuss your questions and your answers to the case, and then you're going to conclude with discussing how you would incorporate your understandings into your practice as an educator. A couple of things about PowerPoint. You want to make sure for this presentation that you include all the voices of the group members, that your presentation is brief. We tend to present for longer than we expect, so your presentation is 10 minutes. That's the time period you'll have, 10 minutes, but try to plan for 7 minutes so you have room in case you go over. I also encourage you to rehearse so that your presentation flows from section to section, because I imagine folks will be putting their sections together. The last thing is that you want to make sure that in your PowerPoint it doesn't just reflect everything that you're saying. So the words that you say out loud should not be bullet points of what's on your PowerPoint. You can use images in your PowerPoint. You can use bullet points in your PowerPoint that are not complete sentences. So you shouldn't have really text-heavy slides. You should have very clear slides with minimal words. And I put a link in the assignment for one example to model your PowerPoint presentations, but there's plenty of resources online to create effective PowerPoint presentations. The fourth step in this process is that I'm going to ask each of you to evaluate yourself and evaluate your peers on their participation in this collaborative exercise, and the evaluation will be a part of each person's grade. Finally, every member in the group needs to upload both the written report and their PowerPoint presentation and the evaluation on D2L no later than 11:59 p.m. on December 6th. So sometimes folks email me or send it on D2L only, different things. Make sure that you submit on D2L because that's where I'll be grading your work. So all of your submissions, both your overview and your final written report, PowerPoint, and evaluation, all of that is submitted through D2L. Of course, I'm here to answer questions. You can use the questions for instructor module to put your questions there first. If you don't get a response you feel like in a timely manner, I try to get to them as quickly as possible. I check in on D2L every day. You can just send me an email, Dr. Pabot, and I posted a question on D2L for everybody. So please use that as a tool. If you have a personal question, pabone@kutztown.edu. Okay, I hope this is helpful, and I look forward to your presentations. Take care.